In this chapter, we're going to get in depth on tables. So we'll look at creating tables, sorting tables, querying tables, looking at conditional formatting for tables, etc. So we're going to be looking in depth at using tables in Excel. This table is an example for bank account managers, and it kind of looks like a database when you think about it. But a table in Excel is actually a type of database. So in that database, we have rows, and those rows are known as records. So when we look at the employee, we have a specific employee with their name, their branch, their specialty, their account value, etc. And all that is the information on that one person or item, etc. And if we look at something like the name, that's known as a field. So the record about the whole thing is known as a record. And if you're looking down in fields, they're like the columns. So the rows are the records and the columns are the fields. So when we look here, we have a field per column. We have column headings. We have some conditional formatting that we're going to be putting in place. We have VLOOKUP that we're going to look at to see what their rating is based on something else. So this is in the end what we're going to be producing. We just need to really understand what the parts of this table are, because they're a little bit different than just an Excel spreadsheet. And it's actually much more powerful as well. So in the beginning, there is an Excel spreadsheet. So this is a simple Excel spreadsheet that's talking about these bank account managers. It's nothing special. It has some column headings and it has some rows and some data entered in there. So we're going to take this and spruce it up. We want to create this into a table to allow the data in the workbook to easily be summarized, sorted, edited, and queried. In other words, we want to ask it specific questions. So we're going to get started right now to create this and make it into a table. So we're just going to select the data that we want. So we want to select from A8. So we have to include the titles, like the column headings. So we're going to select from A8 all the way down to, we want F20. Okay, so we've selected the amount, the information that we want to be in our table. So then we're going to go into creating a table. So when we look here, we can see that we have different tabs, of course, and we want to format as a table in our styles. Okay, so we can format it as a table. It does some special things. It puts in, you'll see in a second, it adds it creates a title or it's sort of headings, and it does the banding. So we're going to choose blue table style medium 14. Okay, so blue, obviously blue, light green, blue 21, blue title medium 14. We're going to choose that. And you want to make sure that you say that your table has headers. If it doesn't have headings like employee ID, name, branch, specialty, then leave it off, okay? But make sure you tell it if it does. Okay, so it says it thinks you do, and it is correct, and we will say okay. Once we do that, it does some interesting things. The first thing it does is when we put our cursor in the table, okay, in the table we can see all of the data that's in there, so we can change all that. We have these band, like the drop down lists. And we also up here get this table design tab. So if we use our drop down list, we can see that we can sort quite easily. It has all of the data points that are in here selected down here. we can add some filters and other kinds of things there. So we'll just say cancel to that. So it understands that this is a table and we can sort it if we want, or we can search based upon certain values. So it's changed what it actually looks like. So this data is, that data that was in Excel has now become part of a table. So we're going to do a few things first to make this table look a little bit better. The first thing we're going to do is do some wrap texts, because if you look here in the supervisor review, it doesn't need to be that wide. So we're going to change the width of column F. So I'll click that, right mouse button click, and column width to 13. I'll make it 13. And then I'll change the height of row 8 to 30. So I'll right mouse button click, row height to 30. Okay, so it's made it nice and big. So in F8, I will go to the wrap text. So it's just simply this button up here that says it's going to wrap the text. And it sort of cleans it up quite nicely and wraps it so that it's correct. The other thing we want to do is we want to name the table. So we're going to go up to table design, and you'll notice up here in the far top here, we have our properties, and the table name that's in there right now is table 1. We want to change that. We want to change it so that it says managers. So we've named it managers. We're going to press enter so it's held. So now when I click off of the table, my table bar is gone, like my table tab is gone. Go back into the table, my table design tab is back, and you can see the table name is managers. Another thing that we might want to do is remove duplicate values. And duplicate values is if I had data that was in there twice, maybe I made a mistake and I would want to get rid of them. So I will go through and see if I can find any duplicate values. The one thing I would like you to note right here is that we can see that we have employees and with their names and their branches. So Julia Day is in Avon, but there's 2 specialties, IRA, SEP, and loans with different accounts values, and they have a different supervisor. Well, their supervisor review is the same, but it doesn't matter. So it's not a duplicate value, okay? But if we look down here, and this is something that happens when data is just put in differently, that we have this Janvier Brownberg loans, it's a duplicate value all the way across, okay? So if we were importing thousands of records, we wouldn't have time to go through and just delete this one. So we're going to remove duplicates in the quick way. So we're just going to go up here and we're going to click on remove duplicates. I'll click on that and I can remove duplicates. You'll notice that it says to delete duplicates, select one or more columns that contain duplicates. So if I had only chosen a few of those that had duplicates, I might cause a little bit of an error because maybe I put employee ID, name, and branch, but I didn't choose specialty, account values, and supervisor reviews. And then what happens is it would delete data that I didn't want it to delete. So I want to select all if I needed to. I want it to select all because if it's everything's duplicate, then it is a duplicate value. I'm going to say OK. It says that it found one duplicate value and it looks like it's gone already. It just disappeared, and with 11 unique values remaining. So I'm going to just say OK. Thank you very much. Okay, so we just removed any duplicates from an Excel table. So we're going to enter some new information in there. So I'm just going to tab starting here at F19. And once I press tab, you'll notice that it gave me a new row. So I'm just going to enter the data. I'm going to enter some new data in here, and then I would just be pushing tab as I go. So 49103. Quentin Mark. Oops. Tab, and he's from Avon. Loans. And 9. And then I'll just tab again. Five, 4, 3, 1, 9. Trono. Maria, a new one from Plainfield. CD Money Market. And there's 292, 789, and it's 6.5. And the final one. And that's Sang, another new guy. And 2, 6, 5. Okay, so I entered the final 3 people in there. So we just enter the data, go down to the bottom and push tab, and it will just let you enter the data, and it will the formatting will flow with it. All right. So we can also add new columns to the table. So for now, I'm going to add a new column. So I'm going to change the width of column G. I'll just do a column width, and I'll change that to 13 and I'll push enter. And column H, change that one to 13. Oops, I didn't even touch anything. To 13. And I'm just going to put a heading in here in column G. And it's going to be rating. Now, I've just typed in that. And when I push tab to go to H8, it should automatically follow the formatting of the table. Okay, so I'm going to add the next column in H is going to be loan commission. And the next one is going to be new money commission. Okay. So I'm going to wrap text for loan. Let's see, I'm going to wrap text for these guys after I change I to a column width of 13, just like the other ones. And then I'll select both of these guys and just do a wrap text. It did wrap text. So it was already set for wrap text. Okay, so now we've got all the columns we need. The next thing we're going to do is take the heading and we're going to center it across the selection. We're not going to actually merge the columns like we did with merge and center. It's a little bit different. We're just going to center across. So when we center across, it does that without merging the cells. Okay, so we're going to select A7 to I7, all the way over to I7. We're going to right mouse button click and format our cells. And in our format our cells under the alignment tab, we're going to say we want the text alignment. We'll use the drop down arrow and we'll choose center across selection. Okay, center across selection. So it should center that, and then we'll just say OK. And now we have created our table. We have centered across the selection without merging the cells. We've put some Excel data and created a table from that. Next, we need to get doing more things. So we're going to create a lookup table, etc. So now looking at this table, we can see that we have this column in G, column G, called rating. So what we want to do is we want to look up the value in the supervisor's review and come back with a rating. We do this all the time with grades. So based upon your mark, it will come back with a letter value, for example. So we look up the value in the supervisor's review, look up the value that's here and compare it in a table, and then it will come back with the rating, just like it would if we were looking up your grade and having it come back with the actual letter value. So when we do that, the first thing we need to do is create a table that has all of the actual reviews and the numbers and what they mean, and then what that rating is attached to. So it's the same as saying, well, if you get 0 to 50 or 0 to 49, your mark would be an F, for example. So we're looking at what the lowest value would be in order to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a table array in L1 to M1. So we're just going to go on over here to L1 to M1, M6, sorry, M6. So we're going to create it right here. So we're going to create our lookup values right over here. So we're going to change the width of both the columns to 14. So I'll select them both. Column width, change that to 14 and push enter. And in L1, I'll just move this over a little bit more. In L1, I'm going to call that rating table. Oops, rating table. Okay, so this is the rating table. And we're going to change that font to 18. Be pretty big. It's a rating table. And bold. Okay. So we're going to format the cells. So I'll select L1 to M1. And we're going to center across the selection. So I'm going to right mouse button click, format cells, go to my alignment tab and my horizontal alignment drop down list, drop that down and center across selection. All right, so we'll center that across the selection. And now we have the rating table going on. Okay. So we're going to type in review right there, and M2 we're going to have rating. Okay, so the review values are going to go in this column here, and it's associated rating with it. Okay, so what we have to do is we want to put that data in. So in I8, we're going to select the format painter, and then we're going to M2 to L2 to M2, and we're going to paint that so that it follows the same formatting. Okay, so we wanted to copy that so it looked exactly the same as those ones there. So now we're going to enter the data. So I have the lowest piece of data. So when we look at it from 0 to 6.99, there is a rating of poor. So if you get the lowest number of 0, you are considered to have a poor rating. If you get 7 to 7.99, you are considered to have a fair rating. If you get 8 to 8.99, you get a good rating. And if you have 9 and higher, then you are considered excellent. Okay, so the one thing you'll note here is that we have 0, 7, 8, 9. This must be in order. Okay, if you don't put it in order, or if it's alphabetical, if you don't put it alphabetical, the lookup ranges will stop once it finds something that's out of order. So say, for example, I put a 4 here, right? Because I forgot to put it up there, and I put maybe it's an okay, right? If this was okay, the 4 is out of order. So 0, 7, 8, 9, it's out of order. So even if somebody had gotten a 4 and I saw that, it would never come back with okay. It would give us the one that it would be a poor rating because it's out of order. This 4 would have to stay in line with everything else. So we don't want that in there, but if it was out of order, that's what it would cause is a big problem. Okay, so all we did was create a table that we can look up a value in. Okay, from 0 to 699, it's poor. From 7 to 799, it's fair. And this is the lowest value that we see. So 0 is the lowest value, 7 is the lowest value, 8 is the lowest value, and 9 is the lowest value. Okay, so we've now got the data, the information in there. So we can create a VLOOKUP. So I'm going to go into G9, right into G9, and I'm just going to type in equals VLOOK. Now, one thing I would like to note is that this is vertical. That's why it's called a VLOOKUP, because it's a vertical lookup. This does not have to be vertical. We could have a horizontal lookup, so looking up a value horizontally, but then we would use a different one, which would be an H lookup. So it would be a horizontal lookup. But in this case, our ratings, our reviews are vertically 0, 7, 8, 9, so they follow along there. So that's why we would use that VLOOKUP. So I have VLOOKUP. I'm going to push Tab, and then I'm going to go up into my FX button, insert function, so that we can see what we're doing. Okay, so the first thing it says is look up value. So it wants to know where I want to look that value up. So in the supervisor's review, so this is what it's all based upon, okay? The supervisor's review, this guy got a 10, so I think it should come back excellent, right? So it says, where do you want me to look the value up? Well, look it up in this cell, supervisor's review, okay? They've named it, that's okay. It's in a table, that's why it's got the @ supervisor's review, okay? So don't be too freaked out by the fact that it does that. And it says, what is your table array? Well, I didn't name this table. I could have named this table quite easily. I could have named it rating table if I wanted to, but I did not. I should check to see whether I should have, but I don't think so. No, it doesn't say I should have. So then I'm going to select the table array here. So I will take from 0 all the way down to there. Now what happens here is because I didn't name it, I must absolute cell reference, okay? Because when I fill, I don't want it to fill poorly. So I'm going to F4 that. So it now has the table array, has the $signs in front of it, and it will always look that value up in this rating table, okay? And the next thing it says is column or index number. So what column do I want it to come back with? So if I look here, the first column is the one that it's looking the value up in. The second column is the one that I want it to come back with. So I just put the number 2. Now I could have more than 2 columns. I could have another column over here with something else that I wanted it to come back with. But in this case, I don't. So I'm putting it's in column 2, the second column in the table. Okay, so now if you look down here, it's got the word excellent, excellent. And so once I say okay, it should show excellent. Okay, and then because it's a table, okay, because it's a table, It automatically, I didn't have to fill anything, right? It made it perfect. So this guy got a 7, so he got a fair. 8.5 was good. And then 6.5 is less than 7, so they got poor. And now this poor little poor that sits down the bottom here is only there because this is considered an empty cell and it's a 0, okay? So it's considered poor. So now we're going to fill in the loan commission and new money commission table or columns. So in the loan commission, they'll get a commission off of the account values if it's a loan. So I'm going to scroll over here a little bit so we can see what they are. So this one, for example, is a loan, and this is a loan. And then the new money commission, we're going to scroll and say that if it equals loans, then they actually don't get a commission. But if it's not loans, then they will get a commission, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to do 2 if functions. And you'll find that we have structured references versus the regular cell references that we get, because the references that we use follows along and uses the table column headings, which is really handy and really easy to follow. So in a loan commission, I'm going to start with it equals if, okay, and then I'll just go up to my, put a column, there we go. And then we'll follow the logic test. So the logic test for the first one says that logic test if this cell right here, the specialty cell, if the specialty, so it says specialty, I'm going to say equals, and then I put the quotes around it, loans. So I want it to say if the specialty says loans, and I'll close there. So you'll notice that this first cell was false. It doesn't say loans. So it says if in this specialty it equals loans. We must say equals loans, and make sure you put it into quotes. Otherwise it doesn't read text unless you put it into quotes. So they're saying if true, they get a commission, okay? So if true, they get to have a commission, and that commission is the account values. So I'll just click on this account value right here, times 0.0025, okay? So they get a commission of 0.0025. So if it was true, that's what they would get, but it's not, so it's false. So this is a loan commission. So, I mean, it's kind of funky now. We're watching it look like with all of these values in here, but remember it's a table. It does things a little bit differently. If false, nothing. Okay, so they don't get a loan commission if it's not a loan. So once I click enter, it should fill the whole thing in. But what this says is if in the specialty field it says loans, then multiply the account values by 0.25%. If not, then 0. Okay, so they get a loan commission if it's a loan. So I'll say okay. And we notice that this guy's a loan, that's good, a loan, a loan, and a loan. So that's good, it worked out pretty good. So I probably was supposed to format that. Yeah, 2 decimals, displays a dollar amount. I didn't need to do anything, it did just fine, didn't it? All right, so now in new commission money, we're gonna do the same thing. Except for in this one, our if function is gonna be a little bit different. So it says if they brought in new money, but it's not a loan, then they get something. So in this case, it's going to be equals if again, push tab, and I'm going to go up to my FX button. Okay, so in this case, my logic test says if in the specialty it equals, and I'll put in quote loan. Now loans, one thing to note is it's easier to say equals loans in the logic test than does not equal loans. Okay, so it's just easier to do that. And then say if it's true, they get nothing. And then if it's false, they get something else. Okay, so it's easier to make it equals loans than to make it not equals loans. So we keep it simple. So it says if it's a loan, they get nothing. But if it's not a loan, then we multiply their account values by, so they get a commission on this. And this one is a smaller number. It's 0.0002. Okay. So based upon what they got, it's 0.02%. Okay, so now we've done our if function using a table and structured references. Okay, so it says up here, we can read it. If the specialty equals loans, they get nothing. Otherwise, the account values times 0.02%. Okay, so in some ways, using a table is so much easier to read than it would be for anything else, like for when we're not using it. Okay, I was just looking to see something. I just noticed one thing. I think my bank managers is supposed to be a little bit bigger, isn't it? I was like thinking of maybe the title. Oh yeah, look at that. I did forget that. I think I was supposed to change the font size. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my bank account managers, and it said horizontal, and then it's wanted to change the height of row 7 to 30, row height to 30, and change the font size of A7, okay, A7 to 22. Okay, I just noticed that. There we go. That looks better. We just missed that. But that's okay. We fixed it. Okay, so our next job is to do some conditional formatting for the supervisor's review. So in the supervisor's review, we want to see whether the data points are going to be like green or red or whatever. So we're going to use this stoplight. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our cursor in this cell. And in our conditional formatting, actually, we're going to select the whole thing in a second. We're going to take F9 all the way down to F22. There we go. We want the whole thing. So now with that supervisor's review, we're going to create a conditional formatting. And that conditional formatting is going to have a new rule that we're going to create. And in that new rule, we're going to choose the format style that we want. So we'll just go to the format style. And in this case, we're going to go to an icon set. Okay, so we want an icon set. And in this case, we have different ones here. So we have a drop-down arrow for icon set. And we have data bars. So we have 3 data bars there. We have 4, we have 5, etc. They're different. And they're pretty cool looking. But we're going to take this one right down here, which is the traffic light. 4 traffic lights we want. Okay, so in this, one thing you'll notice is that the icon is attached to a value. Okay, so now we have, we're going to be matching our value to our rating. So green is going to mean excellent. Yellow is going to be good. Red is going to be fair. And the old black is going to be like poor. Okay, so we want to say when the value is, and we don't want it just to equal. We want it to be greater than or equal to. So we'll stick with greater than or equal to. And if we remember our values, the first one was 9. So 9 or higher got to have green, or they got to be excellent. And we'll want this to be a number. Okay, so make sure we change the type to number. Oops, I better put that back. So we want, if it's a number 9, greater than or equal to 9, we want that. We're going to change all of these to number and number. So we want 9. I think the next one was 8 and then 7. And then if we tabbed over, it would be number, and then anything less than 7 goes black. Ooh, that's not too good, is it? So this is creating those 4 stop signs. So it should give us just an indication instead of the numbers. Now the numbers don't actually go anywhere, but they're still there, but we get to now visualize them, and it's kind of cool. So 9 is green, 9 and above is green, 8 to 9 is yellow, and then 7 is red. Okay, so we'll say okay. So now it's kind of cool because these numbers there, they sort of fade in the background a little bit more. So we can see pretty easily how many people did pretty good. And then this poor guy down here, I think we need to remove the bottom row. It's not showing up and I don't need it in there. I must have tabbed. So what I'm going to do is on row 23, I'm going to right mouse button click, and I'm just going to delete that row. Okay, I don't want it in there. It might mark me wrong or something like that. Okay, so we created conditional formatting that sits nicely in this cell. It's kind of pretty, and it's based upon our supervisor's review. So now we want to put in a totals row at the bottom. It's kind of a cool tool. So we got to select anywhere in the table in order for our table design tab to come up. When we click on our table design, there's a lot of different things that we can do. We could change the style, we could add some banding and change the banded columns. But the other thing we can do is add a total row. Okay, so we just turn it on or off. So if I click on, you notice right at the very bottom, a total row comes up. If I click off, it goes away. Okay, so I'm going to click on. The one thing that it automatically does is it drops a total right down the bottom, and it's a sum total right down here in the bottom right hand corner. So if I used a drop down arrow on that, I could change it to be a minimum. I could change it to be a maximum. I could change it to have an average, etc. I'm going to keep that at sum right now, and we'll leave that there. Because that's what I want anyway. So I can change all of the values I want. So I could count up the number of specialties or people I got. But I do want to sum up the account values at the bottom. So it's on every single one. I have a choice of adding a total if I wanted to, or nothing. So I'm going to add a total to the account values. I'm going to sum that up. The other thing I'm looking to do is, if I flip my page, that I want to average up the ratings or the supervisor's review ratings. So what is the average ratings that is in there? So we got that. And it looks like it shouldn't be such a big one. I would like it to drop to 2 decimal points. So that's what I'm going to do, is drop that down in a minute. Then my loan commission, I would like it to be sum. Okay, so I'm going to add up all the commissions for the loans. New money commissions, I am going to do the account values as a sum. And then in the supervisor's review, I am going to do the average, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to make it 2 decimals because that's way too many decimals. So I'm going to decrease it down to 2 decimals. So it should be 8.39. Perfect. Okay, so what we've done is we just created totals down in the bottom, and we don't need them for anything else. The drop down arrows will sort of stick around for a while, but they pretty much go away. Okay. All right, so now we're just sort of going to do a print. So we'll go to File, in the Backstage view, we're going to print, and you'll notice that it sort of cuts it all off right here. So obviously we need to change it to a landscape orientation, which makes it look much better. we want to print the active sheets, which is the one we've got going on. And we're going to make sure it fits sheet to 1 page. Okay, which did it. So that has the table up here. But let's see, I think we wanted to change that. So I'm actually going to undo that and say print selected table. So instead of the active sheet, I only want the selected table. So I had my cursor in the table when I did that. So it recognized that it's a table, and now it will print only there, and it fits sheet to 1 page. Okay, so then I could print it. So I'm going to back out of there. I'm not going to print it. I'm going to do a save as. So I'm going to save my sheet. I'll leave my name there, and it's called Bank Account Managers. So Bank Account Managers. I'm pretty sure that's going to change before I upload it, but I'll just change that over to Bank Account Managers, SC_EX_6_. Okay, so there's a 6-1. I don't need the 6-1. Bank Account Managers, and I will save that. So now we're going to do some sorting. Sorting is really simple in tables. So we can use our sorting up here in the editing area or the sorting in the drop-down list. It just doesn't really make any difference at all. So we are going to sort so that we can, we're going to sort with the names first. So B9, we'll click in B9. We'll go to the sort and filter. And then we're going to sort and filter A to Z. Okay. So you'll notice everything fixed. It sorts the whole table like that. And you'll notice here now, there is a little filter that came up on the drop down list. So this is a filter. So if I drop that down, it shows that it was sorted A to Z. So that it shows that there was a filter attached to it. So you'll always see that there's some little thing that's happening there because it's sorted. Okay. Now we're going to click E9. So we want to sort those as well. So we're going to go to the sort and filter, and we're going to do smallest to largest. Okay. So then it took away my sort over here in the B, and it did the sort over here. Okay, so maybe we want to sort within something. So we want to sort this one and then that one and then that one. That way we have to use a custom sort. Okay, so we can click anywhere in the table and we can go up to our sort, and this time we're going to do a custom sort. Now with tables, you'll notice that we got some drop down. These drop downs are actually our column headings. It's really handy. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to sort first by branch. Okay, so we're going to sort by branch first. And it says, what are we going to sort on? We're going to sort on cell values A to Z. Okay, so we're going to sort alphabetically by branch. Then we're going to add a level. Okay, so after we've done the branches, so we want to see within the branch, we're going to sort by, what else do we want? Specialty. Okay, so we're going to sort by specialty. So I've chosen specialty, and this one is going to go from A to Z as well. So then within the specialty, I'm going to add one more level, and I'm going to check on, see what their supervisor review was. So based upon their supervisor review. And in this case, I want it to go largest to smallest. Okay, so I want largest to smallest. So we've got the supervisor's review is descending, right? Largest to smallest. Within the specialty, which is ascending, within the branch. Okay, so that's what we want. So now we have Avon, right? The specialties, and then the reviews. Okay, so the highest review is going to be down here. Okay, so that's kind of handy. So we got that. Looks like it's doing okay. 910, 910. Okay. Trying to figure out why this guy here. So we had branch Avon, specialty. See, this guy here should not be there, but that's bizarre. It's going to bug me for a little bit. It did that same thing in the book, but anyway. Okay, so we did our sorts. It's looking good. So we can sort and filter using these auto filters and auto sorts that we have here. So we're going to do that now. So we're going to go into the account values and we're going to use the drop down list here. And we will see that we can sort from smallest to largest, largest to smaller. We can sort by color if there was one, or we could do different filters we're going to do in a second. So we're going to sort from smallest to largest. And you'll notice all the other filters went away, and now we're left with this smallest to largest filter. Okay, so that's using the auto filter. That's there. We're also going to now query or ask the table questions using the auto filter as well. So this is really handy when you have a lot of data that you can only want to pull out a certain amount of data. So for example, we could go down and choose specialties, and then we could take the select all off and say I just want the ones with loans. Okay, so if I did that, it would come up with just the ones with loans. Right now it's still filtered on the account values, the filter, or the, sorry, sorted. So the sort is fine, it stayed sorted, but it now filtered. So now we have a filter icon with just loans. Okay, so we could just have those loans. We could clear that filter anytime we wanted to. As we go up to our table design, or sorry, our data tab, and we have our filter right here in our data tab. It's sort and filter, and we could clear what we did there. We could also filter some more in here, and we could say we only want to have the ratings to be excellent. So maybe we went and said we only want excellent. So I'll do excellent. And then it would bring in just the ones that have a specialty of loans and excellent. Or maybe I wanted to clear this filter, so I can clear this one, clear filter from specialty. Okay, and then it would just have everybody with their excellent ratings. So there's numerous things I can do with that. I could have just specific branches in there. I could totally clear the filters so that they're no longer showing. These are just filters. They allow us to see, maybe we just want to see all the people in Avon, and then we see all the people in Avon. So that's just using the filter. We can search the table for anything we want using the filter. I'll just clear that for now. So maybe we have lots of data. So I'm going to go into the name and I'm going to just search. So maybe because there's thousands of names in there, maybe I want one that has Nunes. Okay. And then I'll just say okay. And then it'll come with that guy, the Javier Nunes. So this table has very little data in it, but if there was a lot of data, it would be really helpful to be able to do that. Okay, so then you search and you just have this guy's name up there. So we could do a specific filter. So I'm going to clear my filter right now. So I'm going to go into F8, into the supervisor's review, and I'm going to do a drop-down list. And this time I'm going to do a special custom filter. Okay, so I'm going to go down and I'm going to go down to a custom filter. And I'm going to say that I want it to say if, so I want to see them between, I don't know, what do we want? Greater than 7. So greater than or equal to 7 and less than or equal to 9. So let's find less than or equal to 9. Okay. So that gets rid of, it's just those guys, 7 and 8 and 9, less than or equal to 9. So those are the guys that are not the perfect people and they're not the ones that are poor. Okay. So I can clear that again. I can actually clear even having the filters there. I just have to click this button up here. It turns off the filtering. So this drop down arrow that's there automatically when you first create your table, I can just click that and it's gone. Okay, so it's gone completely. So maybe I want it back. I can just go back up there and put my filter right back on. So if you find that it's gone, you're like, where did that go? You must have clicked this, or go back on and click it back on because you're going to be needing it. So now we're going to use criteria and extract ranges. So what we're going to do is we have to start thinking about this as there's a lot of records here and we need to sort them and extract them, the information that we need out of that. Okay, so it makes it easy to query the database or to the document here, the Excel spreadsheet. So this table doesn't have very many values, but if you did have thousands of values, you would want to find a way to extract the values quickly. So in this case, what we do is we create a criteria area. And when we create a criteria area, this is separate from the table and it allows us to put the values in that we're looking for. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just create it. So I'm going to select A7 to I8, A7 all the way over to I8. And I'm going to copy it, so Control C or use your copy. And I'm going to paste that into A1. So I'll just do a Control V and paste it in there. And it should have just pasted. That's the undo. Yeah, it should have. Let's try that again. Let's just push enter and see what happens there. It did that, but I wanted it to paste with the formatting. So I guess I have to format. So I'm just going to select this, use my format painter. I'll go home, select my format painter and do that. Did not format. Let's try that again. Select, format, paint. Okay, we're going to have to try that again. Let's do it one row at a time. There, that's better. And this one looks like it did that, but I just doesn't like to do it too often. Okay, so what we're going to do too is we're going to change the title. We're going to call this the criteria range. And remember, it's in A1. So we'll do criteria range. And then I'm also going to name this. So I'm going to select A2 all the way down to I3. Now, what I really should do in this case is I could select it, I could select more. I could do A2 all the way down to A6 if I wanted more criteria range. So I may have to extend that later. But I'm just going to name this criteria. So I'll just click in the name box and type in the word criteria. Criteria. I got to make sure I spell it correctly. So now that I have the criteria range, this range is where I would put the information that I'm looking for. Okay. So if I have that in there, I could just type in the values I want and it will automatically sort it for me. Okay. So I'm going to use the advanced filter for that. So in D3, I'm going to put in IRA slash SEP. So I want the specialty to be IRA, SEP, and so it's going to be on the same line, the account values of greater than 300,000. Okay, 1, 2, 3, I think that's right. So I had to put the values in, and a supervisor review of greater than 8. Okay, so the supervisor's review of greater than 8. So this is the criteria that I'm sorting it on. So I don't need to use the drop-down list to do that. I can do it this way. So I created a criteria range right here. Now, Excel understands the criteria range, and when we call it criteria, it's like, oh, I know what that means. So then I can go right to click in my table, and this time I'm going to go back into my data tab, and I can do my filter. Okay, so I have to choose advanced filter here. So I'll drop down the advanced filter, and it said, okay, your list range is this table. And you're like, yes, the table is where all my data is. And if I had thousands of lines of data, it would show them all, everything that's in this table, okay, which is really handy. So you don't have to ever select it. Then it says criteria range. Well, you named this criteria over here. See that says A2 to I3. And I'm like, yep, you know what you're talking about. So the criteria range is up here. And in this case, I'm not using copy to, but I will do that in a bit. But it says filter the list in place. In other words, keep the list here. That's what it means by filter in place. And then I'll just say, okay. Okay, so now anybody who had a specialty of IRA, SEP with account values greater than 300,000 and a supervisor's review of greater than 8 shows up right here. They get an award, right? Sounds good. So that's filtering it in place. But sometimes, I mean, this is great, and then maybe you want to highlight this and maybe print it or copy it and paste it somewhere else. But once you paste it somewhere else, these values all show up, right? They don't keep their filter, so be careful with that. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to clear that filter, and we're going to fix the problem of not being able to take that information and use it somewhere else. So I'm going to clear this. So I'll clear the filter, and I'm just going to leave this the criteria up there for now. So I'm going to once again create another place range. I'm going to create what's known as an extract range. So I'm going to again select this information right here. I'm going to copy. So I'll go home and I'll go to copy. And I'm going to copy this down to A25. So, and then I will push enter and it copies, and I will have to do my format painter so that it comes up looking pretty, and I'll do the format painter for this cell right here. I think it did it pretty good did it pretty good. There we go, perfect. So now I need to name the range. So I'm going to change this title here, oops, sorry, right there, to extract area. So this allows me to then take the information, leave the stuff in the table, the original table all by itself, and just leave it there. But I can do some comparisons, so I can take it and it'll go into an extract area, and then I could take that and copy and paste it somewhere else if I wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to select the range A26 all the way down to I45. So I'm making it quite large. I could have the extract area on a different page as well. Okay, so extract area. I think I've got a selection going on. There's the extract area. And I'm going to call that, I'm just going to X out of there and see what I did. What happened here? I'm like, what the heck is going on? Oh, there we go. Oh, I see what happened here. I did not push enter. Okay, extract area, enter. There we go. Now I can select A26 to I40. What did they want? I45. Now the reason we're selecting such a large extract area is because sometimes we have a lot of data and we don't want to run out of room in our extract area, but Excel is pretty forgiving. It kind of understands that. So we're going to name this the extract area. So we'll just call it extract. Okay, so it's extract. And now we've created 3 areas. We have the extract area where the information that we filter on is going to fall into. We have the table itself, which has the data in it, and we have the criteria range. Okay, so we've got everything going for us. So now we're going to go and put the cursor in the table. I'm going to go back to my data tab and I'm going to go to advanced filtering. So I click the advanced filter, and this time I want to copy to another location. Okay, so I don't want to filter in place, I want to copy to another location. So one thing about Excel is it understands me. So it knows the list range is the table. It knows the criteria range is the cells up the top where I named it criteria. And it knows my extract area is A26 to I45. So it knows where it goes. Okay, so then I can say okay. And what it does is, if you scroll down, the information that can come up is exactly what I asked it to be, right? So IRA or SEP with account values of greater than 300,000 and reviews of greater than 8. Now the one thing that didn't come here was the supervisor, like the formatting. So I'm like wondering if I should have had the formatting, but I don't think so. No, it doesn't show up in the formatting there either. Okay, so that's okay. All right, so we're going to leave this here. A couple of things about the criteria range. The criteria range, if it has a blank row, it means that there's no comparison that you need to, right? So if I left it blank, there would be nothing coming up. If you want an or, so you could have another row. So if you have things on 2 rows, it means or. So I could have the specialty of IRA, SEP with greater than 300,000 or greater than 8. Or I could write loans down here if I wanted to, with amounts that are greater than a certain amount at a supervisor's review. So if I wanted or, I'd put it on another line. So if I wanted an and in here, so if I wanted a supervisor's review of greater than 8 and less than 7, I would have to copy this row and put another row in there for it. I must add a column in the criteria range and duplicate the column heading. Okay. So there's different things that need to be done with this criteria range, but basically it's a place where you put in the criteria and then it does the extraction once you do the advanced filtering. So it hasn't said to get rid of it. So we'll leave that and I'll just do a little save here so that we have our data saved. So our next job is to use some more database functions. Excel has 12 of them and we're going to stick with a few like d'average, dcount, dmax, dmin, dsum. Those values that have a D in front of it are really for the database. So d'average is the database average. So it's a simple function, average function. So that calculates the average numbers in a table that pass a specific function, or sort of a specific test that we have. Count counts the number of numeric entries on a table, that passes a specific test, right? So how many of them are from Plainfield? And then of course there's D max, D min, and D sum that do the same thing, add them up, min or max that meet a specific criteria. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create an output area so that we can place in our averages. So we're going to start over with O, P, and Q. So I'm going to move myself over to O, P, and Q. If it will let me, let's go over here for now. We're just going to go to O, P, and Q. And we're going to select them both, and we're going to fix the column widths and change it to 18. Okay. And then in O1, we wanted to go up to O1. We'll go very top. This is going to be our output area. Output area. Okay. And we'll center the title across the selection of O1 to Q1. Okay, so we'll format our cells, horizontal alignment, and we'll center across our selection. And enter some other labels. Doesn't say that it wants to be formatted. Oh yeah, it wants to be formatted. Okay. Okay, so I'll leave that for now and we'll do the formatting in a bit. We have a bunch of cells that we need to enter into O2. We are going to type in average, AVG, Avon supervisor review with a colon. Oh yes, I shouldn't have. Let's fix that so that it's not AVG. Little average Avon supervisor review. And then of course we're going to do the same for Brownsburg supervisor's review. Supervisor review. Average for Plainfield. Okay. Then we want managers with poor ratings. Total checking / savings. What else do we want? 07, count of loan officers. And then in 08, locator. And in 9, enter employee ID number. Branch location of entered employee. This is like a criteria range for us to enter our data in, and then the output area will have all that information. Function, branch criteria. Then we want branch, Avon, Brownsburg, and Plainfield. Okay, so we're getting set up here. It says to bold the title cells in 08 and 011, 08, and 011. And center them across columns O through Q. Okay, locator. Format cells, center across. Format cells and center across. Okay. Oops, I think I wrote the wrong one. Branch location of entered employees, that's correct. Function branch criteria. Okay. Oops, I think I did the wrong one, didn't I? It was supposed to be 11, not 10. So I'm going to undo that one. And that does not need to be bold. Okay, locator is, and then it is the function branch criteria. It's supposed to be bold and formatted across. Center across selection. Okay, use the format painter to copy the formatting from cell L1. Okay, L1. Format painter. To O1. Oops, O1. And formatting from L2 to O12 to Q12. O12 to Q12. All right. Ensure that O7 matches the formatting of O6. O7 matches the formatting of O6. Looks like it does. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so now that we have that all set up, we need to get to work. So this is the output area that we're going to put some d-averages in. This is going to be another criteria area for the and based upon location. So we'll see how this works. So we're going to go into Q2 and we're going to type in equals d-average, and then I'll just push tab and I'm going to go up here into the FX button. Okay. So in this case, it says, where is your database? Okay. So in a d-average, our database is going to be our data table over here. Okay, so it's A8 to I12. But if we click in here, you notice it goes to this, and I'm like, I don't really want that. I should name this table. I don't think I did name the table, but if I had named it a table, like say, for example, I named it table, which I did not, it would come up like account manager's table. It would be handy. But in this case, we want it to be A8 to I22. Okay, so that is the database. That's where the information is coming from. So employee ID, branch, specialty, etc. So A8 to I22. And we're looking for the field is going to be the supervisor's review. Okay, so this is the field that we're doing. So you notice it says supervisor's review. So it's going to be in there. And then what is our criteria for this average? Well, the criteria is going to be 0.12 to 0.13. Okay, so I'm just scrolling over here. So we want 0.12 to 0.13. Let's see, 0.12 to 0.13. It's got branch. There we go. We're selecting those two there. 0.12 to 0.13. Okay, so that's the function that we want. So we want a branch and Avon, sorry. Okay, so let's take a look at it. I don't like the headings in here, so why do we have managers headers? So we're going to change that to match so that it just says supervisor's review. Let's get rid of that. So we'll just put the supervisor's review in there. I think it's going to mark me wrong if I don't. So I'm just going to take it so that it's just supervisor's review. There we go. Oops, delete. Okay, and add my quotes. Okay, there we go. It's the same number, it's just that it wanted it to not have the selection, so I didn't want to select it to get marked wrong. So the database is where I'm getting the information from. The field is supervisor's review. The criteria is this branch over here, branch and Avon, right? So that's the branch goes, scroll over. In this branch field, they're going to come from Avon, okay? So what is the average review for the branch in Avon? Okay, so the average review is pretty high, right? It's 9.185. So that's the average Avon supervisor's review. Now if we do it for the Brownberg, we'll do the same thing. So I'm going to do equals D average. And there's definitely ways that we can do it faster, but we're not doing that faster today. Okay, so the database, once again, is in A8 to I22. Okay. The field that we're working on right now is going to be our supervisor's rating. Oops, supervisor's rating. Or sorry, review. And you know if you did it wrong, supervisor, I have to double check. Review. And the branch is going to be Brownsburg. Okay? And if nothing comes up, if you get a blank, that just means you spelled something incorrectly. Okay? So their review is a little lower. And then we'll do plain fields. So if I filled it down, it would cause a bit of an error, but it's easy to fix. So I can select on that. I can go up to my FX. And I know that my database is going to be A8 to I22. Okay, so I got A8 to I22. Supervisor's review, and this time it's now going to be, I'm going to just delete these guys down in the criteria, and I will select Q2 to Q3, or sorry, Q12 to Q13. Okay, so I just fixed that up, so it's A8 to I22. The field is supervisor's review. And the criteria is Q12 to Q13, so in the branch of Plainfield. So this is what we mean by they have to meet a specific criteria. All right, so we got that one. So now they have 7.125. And I think we're good there. Oh, and then we have some more to do too, right? We're going to go to Q2. Let's see what's going on over here. Q2 to Q4. And we want it to be the number format with 2 decimal places. So I'm just going to remove one number with 2 decimal places. Then in Q5, we're going to use the D count. And this is where we're going to equals D count tab. And we'll bring up our function again. So it says, once again, what's the database that we're looking for? Well, our database that we're looking for is still A8 to I22. That's our range. What field do we want? Well, we want to use the supervisor's review because managers with poor ratings. So we're looking for, once again, supervisor review. Okay. And what is the criteria this time? Well, in this case, we're using M2 to M3. Where do I have M2 to M3? M2 to M3. Okay, so if they have a poor rating, M2 to M3. Okay, so poor rating. And it looks like there's 2 of them. Okay, so the manager with poor ratings, there's 2 of them. So now we're going to look at sum if, count if, match, and index functions. So we're first going to start off with sum if. So basically it says add it all up if it meets a specific criteria. And that's the same as count if. So count it if it meets the criteria. So for example, count up the number of people that live in, or that come, the branches in Avon, for example. Or sum all of the new money commission if they meet this criteria because they're from Avon. So we use those if we want it to meet a specific criteria. Okay, so in the sum if, we're going to go into Q6. So I'll go into Q6. And it wants a total, checking, and savings. So in this case, I'm not even positive what they want that, because they want to, well, I don't know why they care about that. You're searching column D specialty for checking and savings and then summing the account values. Okay, so we're going to be looking for those who have accounts that are checking or savings accounts, and then we're going to add them all up. So I'm going to go equals sum if, and I'll push tab so that we can go in and look at the function. So the range. So when we talk about the range, we're looking for what range that we want to evaluate. Okay, so we're going to evaluate D9 to D22. Okay, so I'm going to go over to D9 to D22. So we're looking at the specialties. So D9 to D22. So that's the specialties. I better not select it. It doesn't want it. D9 to D22. It's probably going to mark me wrong if I did that. To D22. Whoops. There we go. D9 to D22. So we want to analyze the specialties. And then we want them to have, and we put in quotes, checking or savings. Checking spelled the American way, / savings. So if it's that type of account, okay, what range do we want to sum? Well, we want to sum the account values, okay? So we're going to take all of those values. So we're going to take E9 all the way to E22. Now, normally you would select the range, but for some reason we're not. E22. So now it only looked at those. The first thing it did was look in here to see whether they were checking and savings accounts, and then it added them up. So it did a sum if it did a sum of the account values if they were a checking or savings account. Okay, so that's what it did. So then I had a value there that I'm going to change it to accounting number format. Okay, so they had $1,721,540 worth. So we summed if it followed that criteria. The next one we're going to do is count. Okay, so in this one we're going to do a count if. So it equals, we want to count if the number of loan officers, so those who give loans. So I'm going to say equals count, and I'll down arrow down to count if, and push tab. So count if is a little simpler. It just says what's the range and what's your criteria. So we don't have to sum everything else up or not. So the range in this case is going to be our D9. So our specialty again, D9 to D22. So D9 to D22. So those are where we're counting. And our criteria is going to be loans. Okay, so I put that in quotes, loans. All right, so now that I put that in quotes, it says that there's 4 of them. So I'll say, okay, now there's 4 of them. Okay, so it counted for loan officers. So if I wanted it to be a different type of officer, I could do that. If I wanted to have a drop-down list that chose officers, I could just drop them down and the count if would come up. It's kind of amazing what the possibilities are for this kind of thing. The next thing we're going to actually look at is match and index. Now, match and index are something that are used for pretty advanced functions, but they're kind of handy. So when we use the match function, we use it to find the position number of a piece of data in a table or range, right? So we just want to find its position. So the first argument when we talk about it is the cell reference, and then we look at where are we going to search. And then the third says which you're matching your lookup value. So we'll start with that one first because we're going to do the enter employee number. An index is when we look for a specific value in a table or range based on a relative row and column. Okay, based upon a row and a column. So that sort of shows where it belongs. Okay, so we're going to go to Q9. And in Q9, we're going to type in Q9. We're going to type in 18481 and enter. To enter a lookup. So we're looking for employee ID number. And this says now we're going to go into Q10 and figure out come back with that, right? So then I can type this in and it will come back with my employee number. So in Q10, I'm going to type equals index tab. Okay, and I'm just going to go up here into the function area here. And it says we have an array, a reference, a row, a column. So in this case, we're going to not be able to use that because it's not quite what we're looking for. So we'll just leave this up here for now. Actually, maybe I'll just push cancel. I'm going to do equals index. And we'll go by theirs tab. Okay, so the first one is an array. So when we think about the array, we want A9 to I22. Okay, so the whole table, A9 to I22. Okay, so we want the whole array. That's the whole table, so it selected the whole table. Okay, so now we're going to match that. So I'll do a comma, and this time I'm going to do what's known as a nested formula. I want to match. I'm going to put a column in there, and it says, what lookup value do you want to match? Well, I want to match Q9. Okay, I can't select it because it's right behind this. It's hard to select that way. So I want Q9. So I want to match Q9. That number that's in Q9, I want to match that to my table. So I'm going to look it up anywhere in the table in A9 to I22, right? I22. Okay, so find the match for that number somewhere in A9 to I22, or else don't bring back me anything, right? And then match type, I'll put 0, because if you have less than a lookup value is 0 for the exact match, and 1 for anything matches higher. So we want the exact match, not something that's bigger. Okay, so I'll put 0. So I want the exact match. So you notice here, it's got exact match, less than it, exact match, or greater than. So we want 0 is the exact match. I'm going to close my thing, and then I'm going to finish. And it says, what column number do we want it to be in? So in this case, our column is going to be the 3rd. We want to come back with the branch location. So I'm going to scroll over here for a second without ruining it. So we want it to come back with the branch location. Okay, so column 1, column 2, column 3. Okay, so the branch location. So they're looking up that number anywhere in the table they can find it, and then they're going to come back with the branch number, or branch name, sorry. So we want it to be 3. Okay, so I'm just going to type in 3. Did I put the comma in? No, I didn't. Comma, 3rd column. Okay, so hopefully I did it right. Indexated and match. Yep. And then it said NA. Okay, I guess I didn't do it right. Okay, let's see what I did wrong. Okay, so I want index of A9 to I22, which is correct. And, oh, did I miss? No, I didn't. And then I want the match, and I want to match Q9 to A9 to I22. Let's see, lookup array. Oops, see, my lookup array, no, that's fine, is 0. And then I got my match type is 0. So I want it exact. Close my bracket. And it is, oh, I want column number. Oh, hang on. It's on column number, not row number. Row number, and it's column number 3. What is wrong with that? Okay, now I got to figure out what's wrong with this one. Looked fine to me. A9 to I22, match Q9 to A9 to I22. Zero 3. Well, there's definitely something going on here. array row number, column number. Oh, let's see. A9, I22, row, it's missed something. Oh, hang on. I'm going to pause this, try and figure out what was wrong with it. It looks perfectly fine to me. Okay, so I found my error. My error was my match was not the row of A9 to A22, it was A9 to I22, which was incorrect. Okay, so it's A9 to A22, and it's still 0 because I want an exact match. Close my bracket, and I want a comma because I don't want a row, but I want a column 3. Now this should work. So A9 to I22 is going to be where I'm indexing. That's what I'm looking for. Oh, and I should close my bracket. And then I want to match Q9 to A9 to A22. And I want an exact match, and I want it to come back in column 3. Let's see if that'll work. No, it did not. A9 to I22, comma, match Q9, comma, A9 to A22, yes, comma, 0, close bracket, comma, 3. Well, this is just fun, isn't it? It should combine index and match to return the branch location of the manager. Oops, hang on, look at this. I got a negative value in there. I see what I have. See, I got a minus index, so let's just take that out. I put a dash in there for some reason. Okay, finally. So we get Avon there. So I should be able to put in another guy. I better remember which guy I put in there first so I don't get that marked wrong. So I had 18481. I'm going to put in another guy and we'll see what happens here. So I want 49103. I'm going to try that. 49103. And 49103, was he Avon? Yeah, he was. Darn. Okay, 17208. 17208. Okay, Brownsburg. So it's working. Okay, so put 18481 back in. So we have Avon. So the index and the match. There are other things that we would do in here as well that we wanted to do sort of something different. We can use an and, an or, an XOR, or a not function. So it returns arguments. So for example, if we use an and, we would use that, and this returns true if something is correct. There's a not, and the not function sort of uses a single argument that returns true if it's false. So you might have to check your book for some of the other things that are out there. They're not as scary as they seem. Just try them and see if you can figure them out, because there's a lot of functions that we haven't touched on yet. Okay, so before we go too far, make sure you save right now, because we're going to go and do some subtotaling, and then we're going to save that as with subtitles, and then we're going to come back to this one, because this is the one that we're going to be uploading. We're going to do a few more things to it, but make sure you save it first. Okay, so now that it's saved, just double check the bank account managers. That's saved. We're going to do subtotals, and subtotals are really handy. It's really cool because it allows us to sort of group things together. So we can group by branch, we could group by specialty, etc. So we're going to click on one of the numeric fields, any one of them. So we're in the bank manager. So we're going to start with subtotals, and then we're going to use the outline feature. So in the subtotals, we're going to, we notice that our table design comes up, right? And when we look in our table design, it allows us to do a lot of different things. Oh, hang on. First, we have to convert it. We're going to convert it because this table, when we're in this table, the true tables, we can't use the subtitles totals because we have this total area down here. It doesn't quite work like that. So we're going to convert this to a range first. So we have convert to range right here. We can do it that way, or you can right mouse button click, go to table, and then convert to range. It doesn't matter which way you do it, it all does the same thing. So what that's going to do is remove this from being a table. It's going to look close to the same, but it's a little bit different. It says, do you want to convert this back to a normal range? And that's sort of like the Excel regular documents thing. We're going to say yes. Okay, so it's no longer a table. These are just account values. When we do our formulas, it will no longer use the column headings as part of our formula. All right, so we're going to click on value here. Any one of the normal fields, we're going to click on column E. We're going to go to the subtitles. So we're going to go to our subtotals, sorry. We're going to go to our data tab in the outline group. Just got to find that. Oh, there it is right there in our outline group way over here. And we want to display the subtotals. Okay, so now the subtotals thing comes down and it says at each change in. Well, what do we want the change in? So we could do it each change in the branch. They say employee ID. That's a silly one to do a group in because they are all different. Name, well, probably don't want to do that. But branch, we want to group them by branch. So we're going to choose branch. Okay, and it wants to use this function. Do we want to, which one do we want to use? Well, we want to use the sum. So we're going to add them all up. And then we're going to add a subtotal to. Okay, so it wants to know what you want to add a subtitle to. In this case, we want the account values. So we want account values. And we don't want anything else. Okay, so we're going to subtotal the account values. So we could subtotal everything if we wanted to, but really we don't. We just want account values, and I think that's it. Yep, just make sure that's selected. Okay, and we want to clear all the other ones. And it says to replace current subtotals, there are none. Page break between groups, we don't really want them to be on their own page, but we could. And we want the summary directly below the data. And that's really what we want to do. Okay. What else do we got? We're going to say okay. All right, so now this is kind of cool. So you'll see what happened here is we got some outlines going on here. We've got Plainsfield total right here, Brownsfield total right here, Avon total right here. So it's grouped by, it should have grouped them a little bit better than that, shouldn't it? Doesn't look like it grouped very good. So I did something at each change in. That's what it should have done. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at my subtotals and see what happened. At each change in branch, right? Oh, I forgot to sort, cancel. That's what I did. I forgot to sort. So I should have sorted it by branch. Let's do a sort. Let's see, what do we want to sort on? So I'm going to, let's see if I can remove this. Remove all and get it back. Okay, so now I just did a remove all. So I have to sort these because it does at each change. So it took Plainfield, Brownsfield, Avon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort. I'll put this back as a table and then I'll do that. So what I'm going to do is go to, what was I thinking I was going to do? Let's think about this. What do I want to do? I'll make this into a table. No, not that. I want this to be a table. I'll put it back into a table. Say OK. I'll do my sort for branch. And yes, I want it sorted like that. So I made it back into a table. Now I'm going to convert it back to a range. And this time I can then do my subtotals. So I'll put it back into a column E somewhere. I'll go to data, go to my subtotal. And at each branch, I want to add that, and I want account values and nothing else. Okay, so branch, use this. That looks much better. So what happened was it did it at each change. Because I hadn't grouped or sorted it, it was all a mess. Okay. Okay, so we have our subtotal right here. It's on just our account values, and then we have a grand total down here. So we can close up the ones we don't want to look at. Okay, so we can just close them all up, and we can only have like maybe this one. So it shows the totals up there, but then it shows all of the information on Plainfield, or we can just have the totals. So it got rid of all the other junk and allows us to just see this. So we have different levels up here, 1, 2, or 3. And that's just part of our outline area. It's kind of cool. So at this point, we're going to save as, what were we saving it as? Bank account managers with subtotals. Okay, with subtotals. Okay, so I'm saving that. We can remove the subtotals. So we just go on to the subtotals again, and we can remove all. Okay, and then it goes back. All right. So that does it for the subtotals. And now we're going to open up the other file and finish this off. Okay, so I'm going to go in and open up that other file, the bank account managers file that I had. So I'll just take that one, and it should come up. And it didn't have the other stuff. It's the bank account managers. Perfect. Now we're going to create a tree map chart. So the tree map charts are pretty cool looking. So we're going to go and do a sort. So I'm going to click any cell in the table. I'm going to go to the filter button. I'll just go up to data, and I'm going to go up into my sort and filter group, and I'll display my filter. Okay, so it gave me the drop down arrow for my filters, which is quite handy. And we're going to sort the data in ascending order by name. Okay, A to Z by name. So Carrie Bruce should be at the top. All right, so then we're going to drag to select B8 to E22. So B8 to E22. E22, there we go. And so those are the values we're going to do for our chart. So we're going to insert a hierarchy chart. So I'm going to go to Insert. And we have these different types of charts and stuff that go on. So if we look around, we'll see that there's a insert a column, insert a hierarchy chart. Okay. So we got to insert a hierarchy chart, we got a sunburst and a tree map. Okay, so we want to choose the tree map. Okay, pretty cool looking. So we're going to change the style of this one. So this is a tree map. So it talks about Quinton Mark, who's in loans, IRA, that's what he has. So that's what we took, and these are the dollar values associated with the amounts, hey? So we want to change the chart. So we're going to go into the, I'll click on the chart, and I'm going to see which one I can choose. So it wants the 6th chart style. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Style 6. Okay. And in the chart elements button, we want the legend. We want to remove the legend because we already know their names. Okay, so we will remove the legend. So that's gone. And it's kind of looking pretty good. Oops. So no legend, no legend. Okay. So when I hover over it, this just says what the value is, so that's why that number is like that. So if you look at this loans, he has $3 million worth of loans, and this guy has $4 million worth of loans and $750,000 worth of IRA SEP. Reggie has loans of $760,000, so it's kind of cool. Okay, so we're going to move it to its own page. So we'll go to Move Chart. We're going to go into a new sheet. We're going to name that new sheet Manager's Tree Map. Manager's Tree Map. I have to watch my spelling sometimes. So we'll move that, and then we'll just fix it all up. All right, so in the chart title, it wants new money accounts, Manager's Tree Map. Okay, so in chart title, I'll type in new money accounts. Okay, new money accounts, and font size 24. Let's go home and do font size 24. Oops, maybe I gotta select it first. Okay, new money accounts. Any of the data labels in the chart. So we'll go onto the data labels, we'll click any one of them, right mouse button click. I'm going to format the data labels, and actually I can format them right here, and then I want it to be 14. Okay, that's better. Okay. Also, we have our sheet name, that's good. Okay, so we're going to then go on to any one of the rectangles, and we're going to format the data series. Okay, and we want to click the banner in the label options. So instead, whoops, where's my mouse? There it is, banner. Okay, so it's got a banner. Instead of overlapping, it has a banner for more clarity. Looks a little better. And then we want to look at the data labels. So I'm going to click on a data label. And we're on the data labels. So what do we want to do? So in our label options, click to display the check mark for the value. We did that one. Oops. Just gonna double check. All right, there we go. Right mouse button, click on it. And we want value and category. Okay, so we have our value and our category number. And what else do we want? A separator. It says they want a new line. Okay, so it wants to jump it down onto a new line. All right. So that looks like that's it. This one we are saving as, so we're going to do another save as. And this time it's bank account managers with tree map. Oops, capital W. With tree map. Okay. So that's it for this chapter. I'm going to upload it to see what areas I have to fix. Might be a few spelling errors or stuff like that. Should be okay, but that never is okay the first time you upload it. So I'll save that. And if there's a lot of major problems, I'll come back. Okay, so I'm back with a few fixes that I had to make. Most of them are pretty simple. It's kind of silly fixes, sort of. So when I put it in, I got 73%. So the first one is it should be zoomed in at 110%, which is kind of silly because I zoom everything in at really high resolution. So I'll have to just go down to 110%. Okay, so we're zoomed to 110%. It says in the May 21 worksheet, G9. So if I look at G9, on G9, I just instead of typing in the formula they want, I did a cell reference. So G9, it says supervisor's review. So I'm just going to remove the word supervisor's review. And it just wants it to say F9. Okay, so I'm just going to back it all out to say look up the value in F9. Okay, look up the value in F9. Okay. Okay, so it updated it all the way through. I'll just make it do a double check. So that's F10, F13, good. So that's good. Okay, so that fixed that. And it said for L3 to M6, L3 to M6 and 2. Yep. Okay, number 8 came back with something that said in May 2021 worksheet, the table in the range A9 to I22 should be filtered to show only those rows with D values, not even sure what that means, equal to CD, money market, checking and savings, and IRA. I guess there is a step 13 and I don't have a step 13, so not sure what that means. So let's just go into specialty. Text filters that contains D. I don't understand what that one was, but I didn't see that one anywhere in the book. So I'm not sure what that means. So I don't know, we'll see. No, that's not what we wanted. Let's just clear that filter. I'll figure that one out later. Clear that filter, and then it says that the worksheet for F3 should contain greater than or equal to 8. So that was my problem there. I put greater than 8, but it wanted greater than or equal to 8. Okay, which might change the criteria here. So that could very well change the criteria for these guys. So greater than or equal to 8. And there was a few, so what I'll do in that case is I'll just go into do my filter again. So I'm going to go to an advanced filter. I want to copy to another location, and that might change my criteria. So I'll just say okay. And yes, it did. See, it gave me another person. So that's good. So I put greater than or equal to 8, so it included 8. So now my extract area has 3 people instead of 2. So that fixes A27, which says it should have a different value in there. It should say, says that cell A27 should have 17208. So I'm not sure whether it matters that they're in there like that. We'll see. 05 should contain the text managers with poor ratings, and mine actually, I checked, says manager with poor rating. It wants managers with poor ratings. So I fixed that one. And Q2, my D average in Q2, I sort of screw that one up a little bit. So let's click over here, scroll back up. If we look, I have a I22, too many 2's in my I22. So that should fix that up. It gives us the same number, but maybe it doesn't. Okay, I think that's it. Let me check if there's anything else. D average, no. But I will check on that weather piece that says perform step 13. So one thing I did notice is that's why down here our employee IDs are like that, is because we wanted to sort smallest in our supervisors. So we're going to turn on our filter and we'll do a sort smallest to largest. And then we'll do our filter, advanced filter again to the bottom and see if it changes it. So we want to copy to another place. We want to use those values up there, the criteria, and let's see, yeah, there. That's where it did it, was we had the filter wrong, or sorry, the sort wrong for the supervisor's review. So it wants it to stay like that. Because that's why the employee ID 17208 needed to be in cell A27. Okay, so I finally think I figured out what was going on with the other one. It says that we are to click on any cell in the table that's necessary. Click the filter button to display the filter, sort the data in ascending order by name. Okay, so ascending order by name. Okay, that's what we needed to do. Click the filter button in D8. So D8, the filter, and click loans to remove the check mark from loans. I missed that. Loans. Okay. So now we just have those guys in there. Excellent. Okay, I think we did everything. I'm going to save that one more time. So I'll click save and I'm going to upload it for 100%. And if you don't see anything else after this, it means it was 100%. If you do, then I'll come back with what I did still get wrong.